Hello and welcome to the Saints Insider podcast. I'm here with our columnist, Jeff Duncan from sunny Southern California, as our normal host, Luke Johnson, would say, but he's busy writing at the moment, so we're going to record this one without him. Jeff, today we're playing Buy or Sell with a handful of Saints topics. And speaking of buying and selling, you can do that at a bank, which is a natural transition for this podcast is brought to you by Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Their banking decisions are actually made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community and take the time to know you. From small business to big business, home loans to anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very smooth transition in your debut run here as the host. I think Luke's already been fired.
I appreciate that. And since you like ads so much, let's run another one. Well, here we have another ad we have to get through.
Football fans, with the Caesars Sportsbook app, you can be in the game all the time. Seeking instant action? Quick Picks offers you the most popular games and markets already built for you and ready to bet. Experience the thrill when you stack your bets to create a super parlay. Build bets for your favorite teams and players across multiple games. This season, don't just watch the game. Download Caesars Sportsbook and experience the game like never before.
All right. So, Jeff, we're going to play a little buy or sell. I think the first one that would be interesting to talk about is Cam Jordan's move to inside on these pass rushing downs. They've been moving him inside to almost as if he's a defensive tackle now. Are you buying or selling that's going to be able to work?
I'm buying that. You know, Cam talked about it with us. I thought he had a really good attitude about it at the podium today. I think he knew this was kind of coming. He's kind of done a little of that in the past, but it sounds like in passing situations, that's going to be his home full time now. And his days of being an edge rusher off the end position are pretty much over. It's going to be Chase Young, Carl Granderson, and maybe some Peyton Turner. I think Peyton Turner is also working inside, but it makes a lot of sense at this stage of his career. And I think a lot of it just comes down to attitude, and he seemed to have a great attitude about it.
He did, yeah. And, you know, you still are going to see Cam Jordan as an edge rusher on rushing downs, I think, first and second down. I don't know if it's necessarily he'll play. The interesting thing about the Saints right now and what Dennis Allen was talking about at today's practice is they have to find the four best pass rushers available. And there's a scenario that maybe that's not Cam Jordan anymore. You know, we've seen a lot of Peyton Turner inside there, but why I think I'm a little bit optimistic that Cam Jordan can do this is just because one of his pedigree, he's the Saints' best pass rusher of all time, still has, I think, a little bit more to give. And then I just think at this stage of his career, going against inside guards, people who maybe aren't as athletic in space, I think that's going to suit him a little better. But if you're making a case against this, I mean, he talked about slimming down at the position, and that's not necessarily a spot where you see all these mobile, quick, agile pass rushers.
Right. I think he said at one point he was down to like 269. He hadn't been that weight since high school. The key is maintaining the strength and obviously the power, but yet not losing that explosiveness, which is what's made him such a great player over all these years. But if anybody can do it, I think it's Cam Jordan. He's such a smart player. He does so much work preparing for a game, studying the opponent, knowing tendencies. But, you know, the days of him dominating off the edge, I think pretty clearly are over. And look, they got two good options out there too. It's not like they're lacking anything. I think it's more a matter of Dennis Allen trying to get the four best pass rushers on the field, and to do that, one of these edge rushers got to go inside, and the obvious choice is Cam Jordan.
Yeah, and him or Turner, but the problem with Turner is that he hasn't really been able to stay healthy. Speaking of kind of finding the best fits, let's go over to the offensive line and look at Trevor Penning, because I don't know if he looks like one of the best five linemen right now, and I think buy or sell. Is it time to make this move? Does he need to be benched now, or are you buying or selling that they need to start considering kind of another option there?
I think they have to be considering plan B at this point. I don't know if you have to give up on him yet. We're one game into preseason,
Right.
but it didn't look good the other night, in particular because it's the same things that he struggled with before.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to see him be able to make some progress beyond that. But fundamentally, he has an issue in games. Once he gets into the game, sometimes he looks okay in practice, but he gets out there when the live bullets are flying, and he can't translate what he's being taught and what he's expected to do into his actual performance on the field, and that's a troubling sign. So I think they have to have a backup plan at right tackle. If he doesn't get it down soon, they may have to demote him at some point. I don't think they can afford to do what they did a year ago, where they go into a season and let him learn on the job for 5 or 6 games and they lose a bunch of them. They need Scott Shanley, former Saints linebacker, spoke today about the best teams he's played on started fast. And he thinks this team in particular needs to start fast because they've struggled the last couple of years. There's a little bit of a crisis of confidence. They need to start well. And we talked about this early schedule is going to be pretty unforgiving, especially some of the edge rushers they face early on. So we all know the NFL's an unforgiving league, and everyone's going to see this tape of Trevor Penning struggling a little bit fundamentally, and they're going to attack him. So I'm selling Trevor Penning right now with the caveat that what you said earlier, Matt, I think he's one of the 5 most talented linemen, but I don't think he's one of the 5 best performing linemen right now. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think there are a couple things based on what you said. One is his tendency to revert back to old habits or to bad habits. I mean, we all saw that Duke Manyweather tweet over the weekend. And for those who didn't see it, it was Duke Manyweather is an offensive line guru who worked with Trevor Penning this offseason. He works with all sorts of different offensive linemen. And he tweeted that, that wasn't the same player who was relying on his technique. It's some pretty critical comments from there. And I pressed Dennis Allen a little bit about that on Sunday. And he said that essentially the same thing, that, that wasn't the player that they had seen in practice. And so I think the most concerning thing to me about Trevor Penning, though, is it feels now like we're at the stage of training camp where his flaws are just getting worse by the day. I think I've always kind of been critical of him from the start, but I think there was that case you could make where, okay, there was some noticeable improvement, particularly in the run game. But now you're just seeing, like, even in practice today, he got thrown to the ground by Isaiah Foskey.
Right.
And Isaiah Foskey didn't do anything in Sunday's game.
It's the same thing you said. It's the same bad habits.
It is. Like, if you have any sort of speed as a pass rusher, just do an inside move and you'll likely get by Trevor Penning. Now, having said all that, I'm going to buy Trevor Penning for right now only because I think the Saints are even worse at their backup tackle spot with Oli Udoh. Landon Young. I do think, we saw Udoh today be mostly a right tackle. They had been putting him at guard, but now they're only doing left tackle spots or right tackle. And he just, this would be a great spot if some right tackle just became available in free agency, but God, name me the guy. I don't know. And that's why I think Penning's going to get a little bit more room here to sink or swim.
I think the key for Penning is between his ears. He's got to regain confidence, and it's kind of the chicken or the egg thing. He's obviously got to play well to have confidence.
Right.
But to me, this is a guy struggling with his confidence, and it's fleeting for him. He gets beat, and he gets really down really quickly, and you can't do that. You almost have to have a cornerback's mentality, the short memory, and he cannot afford to get down in the NFL because of the just the ruthless nature of this league. People are just going to come after him, especially these elite defensive ends. And like you said, he's getting beat on the inside move. That was something that happened to him all last year. Yeah. And that's the one area you can't get beat first and foremost at tackle. You want to get beat off the edge, not inside.
And we were talking to someone over the weekend about how they would just like to see Trevor Penning be a little bit more aggressive, that right now he's sort of that counter puncher. And I think if you watch that preseason game, there's a great example of that on the second series on that 1st and 10 rep. He kind of hesitates and waits to see what the pass rusher is going to do, and he just gets completely inside and blown by. So I think Trevor Penning has a lot of work to do. His confidence right now, but that's the thing I think has been the biggest tell as camp has gone along, is that his confidence, I thought at the start of camp, was actually in a pretty good place. You know, he's a very pleasant guy to talk to. There's nothing against him personally. It's just we've seen now camp kind of go along. He got in a fight that was kind of ugly with Willie Gay. He had to be pulled off. And then ever since then, really, he wasn't practicing well that day, and it's really just kind of been a mess since. So let's switch topics here a little bit and focus on the safeties here. We heard Dennis Allen today talk about Jordan Howden, and even more so than Howden, it was really Dennis Allen was saying that none of these guys at the safety position opposite Tyrann Mathieu have really seized that job yet. And so are you buying or selling this group, or do you think they should go out and grab Justin Simmons?
Well, can I hedge? Can I
both
buy and sell? Because I don't think the Saints right now trust anybody at that position opposite Tyrann Mathieu totally, right? I mean, we got Howden, Harris has been working there a little bit, and Jonathan Abram as well. They've all got kind of things they do well individually, but none of them feel like a complete answer there, right? So they're kind of almost by committee playing the safety position opposite Tyrann Mathieu. And I think Justin Simmons is the answer there if they can sign him, but certainly not a good sign that Simmons came and went and now is visiting other places. Maybe he's just negotiating through his agents to try and up the Saints' offer. But to me, they should have gotten that locked up when they had the chance. So I think right now they have a hole in their secondary at that position. We saw them struggle a year ago defending tight ends. I don't know if they have an answer there right now in that regard. And I also think right now Jordan Howden isn't developed enough to where they feel confident throwing him out there as well.
Yeah, he's a really interesting one, because if you would have looked, we can talk about the 2023 draft class. You would have put him on one of the better finds, fifth round pick. He played well in those handful of games, filling in for Marcus May. But at some point last season, the Saints coaching staff, I think, lost confidence in him, lost trust. And, obviously he was benched for the final 2 games. Since then, he hasn't really claimed that top spot. It's just, I'll hedge like you. I don't know whether to buy or sell. I think I'm going to sell it, just because I really do think they need to get Simmons, even if that involves giving him a 2-year deal. If that is one of the issues at stake, what's the length of the contract? I just think that, Dennis Allen talks about how players need to catch his eye, and I don't blame him if his eye is starting to wander a little bit.
Yeah, well, no one's really stood out, right, and at that spot. And it's telling when they bring in a Justin Simmons, right? Yeah. They're doing that for a reason, and I think the timing of that was, not by happenstance. That they didn't see enough from anyone else at that position. But Jordan Howden's got ability. I like his makeup, his mental makeup. You talk to him, he's got a lot of things to like. But you're right. Somewhere along the line, the Saints started to go with Jonathan Abram, and he made more plays down the stretch than Howden did. Not a great sign that he hasn't taken off this camp either. I mean, we've already seen, and I wrote about it from the preseason game the other night, Brian Brzee seems to have kind of taken a step forward from 2023. Jay Kaner certainly looks more comfortable in year 2. And A.T. Perry made some big plays. All those guys in the 2023 draft class stepping forward. Howden seems like he's kind of treading water.
Him and Nick Saldiveri have been, Nick Saldiveri there was the candidate to start at left guard. He's been out with a calf injury. Dennis Allen said today that wasn't sure if he's going to be able to play in the preseason, as it was a more serious soft tissue injury than normally others. So we'll see there. The last one I think is going to be very relevant to a column that you're in the process of working on, and that's the offensive slow starts. It's the preseason, maybe no reason to panic after 2 disappointing series from the offense the other night, the first team offense. But are you buying or selling these slow starts? Do you think they're going to be a problem during the regular season?
No, I have to by what Dennis Allen said to us the other day, and that is he saw an offense with a new play caller, a new system, a lot of key parts not in the lineup, and that was their first outing against an opponent. And if you just think historically, Matt, of say the last time they went with an extensive offensive overhaul, that was all the way back in Sean Payton and Drew Brees' first year in 2006. And if people will recall, that offense was awful in the preseason. I mean, awful. And it took them actually a while into the regular season before they really got going. And I think anyone that thought this offense was going to come out and be a well-oiled machine week one of preseason was delusional. And I don't think it's going to be that way into the regular season. I think they're going to struggle a little bit because they've got so many new moving pieces there. And Clint Kubiak and his staff have to figure out like what works, what doesn't, who fits, who doesn't, and personnel is going to be a big part of that. Now, I do think the one area of concern, though, is what we've talked about already, and that is personnel. That is legitimate reason for concern, but trying to make some big judgment on this new scheme and what Clint Kubiak's doing when they're running vanilla plays and a lot of guys aren't in there is just overreaction.
Okay, so you're selling the overreaction, but you're buying that they're going to start slow?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to start slow.
Okay.
And I think people should expect that, but that doesn't mean they still can't win some games. I mean, I think first I looked it up today. The first game the Saints played with Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they won 19-14 against Cleveland. Drew Brees threw for like 176 yards. They kicked 4 field goals, and they still won the game. I'm not saying that's what they're going to be like, but I think thinking they're going to come out and score 35 points and light people up with this new scheme is asking a lot.
Right. I'll kind of go the inverse here. I actually think they're going to start a little faster, at least against the Panthers, who, we've talked about before. How many Panthers defenders can you name? Who's their best player? Just from a talent standpoint, I think they're lacking. I think maybe the reason for optimism of why they would start faster is because what we saw the other night was so vanilla that you didn't really get a good sense. Yep. Going back and rewatching the game, the first team did run a little bit more motion than I had thought in real time, but that motion was not like deceptive motion. Mm-hmm. It was not like, oh my God, where is Taysom Hill going? It was just from a tight end to a fullback and so on and so forth, stuff that's easy to kind of snuff out. But I do think once the actual games start, they'll be a little bit more efficient because there's all this deception there. I think that'll be a little bit more smooth. But I do agree with you that there are just issues on this offense that I think are going to be a problem all season long. The pass protection. I think there are going to be a lot of ugly looking runs, as effective as this run game can be maybe over the course of the season. There's going to be a Jamal Williams loss of 3 because 2 guys are in the backfield right away. That stuff I just think is going to take time. And to your point about the personnel, I just don't know how much that's going to really improve over the course of the season. But I still think there is a case where this offense could start fast, but that schedule is also pretty daunting ahead.
Yeah, and look, I think we both know. I mean, the Saints under Dennis Allen, as long as he's the head coach here, they're going to want to play kind of close to the vest offensively. They're not going to be this Sean Payton, Drew Brees. That's not what they want to be. Right. They want to be, in the 20s, control the clock, move the chains, and play to their strength, which is this defense. So I think they're going to be they'll look a lot more like the old Jim Mora Saints, where they try and win with they have really good special teams here under Darren Rizzi. They've been rock solid there. They're good on defense. They just have to kind of be efficient on offense and not make a lot of mistakes. Dennis Allen does not want to be to your point, in a lot of 3rd and longs with this offensive line and Derek Carr's history. That's the recipe for disaster here. So they've got to be able to run the ball, and I think that's where they need to make their most hay. Can they do that effectively? That's what Clint Kubiak was brought in here to do.
And it'll be interesting to see whether, how much more the starters get to play this preseason, because I do think maybe one of the ways that they can kind of ease some of the fans' concerns right now, or just not even ease concerns, but kind of just sharp tune their own game is for these starters to play a little bit more. But Dennis Allen not revealing anything at the moment, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. And In the meantime, we'll be out at Saints practice every day covering this for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. You can continue to read our work. Luke is writing about Cam Jordan's move to the inside. You can read Jeff. He has a column in the works. And I have some stuff as well that I've been working on, including observations about how bad Trevor Penning has been. So if you want to read that and more, read and subscribe to NOLA.com. This is the Saints Insider podcast. We're going to be wrapping it up. So for Jeff Duncan and myself, thanks for listening. And Norm also producing Behind the Glass. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And see you next time.